Well, good morning, friends. Great to be with you on this Tuesday morning. It's another beautiful day out there, and we give God thanks for the day. We're continuing in our journey through Proverbs. Yesterday, if you were with us, we gave an introduction to Solomon, found out where he got his wisdom from, and we also explored the introduction to Proverbs, where it spoke of what the purpose of the Proverbs were, how they could be used and beneficial in our lives. And we also identified that part of Proverbs, a good significant portion of it, is actually written where they're just individual lines that are written one after another after another. They're individual insights or thoughts or pieces of wisdom that we can draw on. And other parts, yes, we do get into kind of a series of instructions that's encapsulated in 6 or 8 or 10 verses. So just to be aware of that as we walk through. And today we are going to have a series of verses, I believe it's 7, and it gives some instruction to the young. And that's pretty much the aim of Proverbs. It's Solomon giving instruction to the young. We suspect that it was probably something that he scribed down for his son to give him some guidance in how to live life, but we don't know that for certain. So anyway, we're going to pick up at verse 8, and this is actually a verse that most parents know or are familiar with in some way, shape, or form, and they love this verse. They wish every young person would tune into this verse and would listen to it and abide by it and gain the benefits of it. And verse 8 just says this. It says, "Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching." And so the encouragement of the young to recognize that the older generation, that mom and dad, have a wisdom and an understanding that they don't possess at their age. And so there's this urging to tap into that, to recognize that there's a greater wisdom that's at play there, and they should take advantage of it. Now, our kids are just like we were when we were younger. The idea of taking advantage of that wisdom is, well, we think we know better. And that just tends to be part of our human nature. But especially when we're young, I think we're very susceptible because we haven't had really any experiences. We haven't had anything to shape us and to kind of put up our radar and warn us when we might be getting into something that could be hazardous to us. We might be getting involved in something that could be harmful to others. That radar hasn't developed yet. We haven't had enough experiences to gain that wisdom and understanding. And so we get this urging to listen to your parents, and it's more than that. It's to accept their wisdom. Now, the verse that goes with this is one that generally most folks don't know, but I want to share those words with you. It says, verse 9 says they, and referring to they is talking about the father's instruction and the mother's teaching. It says they are a garland to grace your head and a chain to adorn your neck. And so, in other words, what Solomon is saying is that these will add beauty and riches to your life. That's the imagery of the garland and the chain. It is beauty and riches to your life. Not riches in terms of monetary, but in terms of something that will benefit your life. And I think that most of us, when we were children, we would have looked at that chain and said, no, that's a chain that restricts me, holds me back, and weighs me down when we think about our parents' teaching and instruction. So often the mindset is, well, they just don't know, they don't understand. I wonder, do we ever completely grow out of that? I suspect that you, like me, sometimes struggle with that still. That you want to throw caution to the wind and just believe that everything is going to turn out okay because you want it to. And that sometimes we put ourselves in situations where we know it's not healthy, but we believe that we can handle it. That's usually the thing. We can handle it, we can manage it. And so this is Solomon's instruction, I think not just to children of, by age, but also perhaps an image of children in the faith. That early on we need to listen to the wisdom of our elders, of those who go before us. So I love the way this starts, but we'll pick up at verse 10 here, and we'll look at a little more in-depth teaching as Solomon unpacks this. He says, "My son, if sinful men entice you, do not give in to them." And this is just a simple verse to say, watch out. There are sinful men out there, and do not be drawn into their group. In other words, watch out. Be careful of the company that you keep. Because when you hang around certain people that are known for certain actions or known for certain things or certain ways of speaking, it is likely you're going to be drawn into their group. And he unpacks that a little bit more. He says, if they say, come along with us and let us lie in wait for innocent blood, let us ambush some harmless soul. I mean, this is really going off the rails. And you sit there and think, what the world would entice any person to say, let's look for innocent blood? Well, that's not the image here. The image is one of belonging. And belonging is, it's kind of no different than belonging to a group or a gang in this day and age. It's that sense of camaraderie. It's that sense of we're gonna experience the blessings and bits of being one group, and we are going to support each other. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to do things together, and nobody's going to stop us. Now, the shedding of innocent blood sounds like a horrible and hideous thing. The gangs were known back in the day. The idea is that these groups would entice somebody with ideas of wealth, with ideas of power, with ideas of strength. I think what Solomon's doing here, if I understand the scripture correctly and in studying it, I think the grasp is here is that Solomon is saying they're going to say all these enticing things. All these things to say, look, you can be a part, you can have us as brothers, we're going to have wealth and power and strength together. But Solomon calls it all out. He says, look, they're going to entice you with those things, but don't be lost and don't think that this last thing is omitted, because the pain that you will cause others is part of it. The pain that you will generate in the lives of others is part of it. And I want to just go move all past the wealth and the honor and the power and all those things that sound really appealing. And I want to get down to the roots of what this is going to generate in the lives of others. And so Solomon just calls it out. He says, if they say, come along with us, let us lie in wait for innocent blood. Let's ambush some harmless soul. Let's swallow them alive like the grave and whole, like those who go down to the pigs. We will get all sorts of, here it is, we will get all sorts of valuable things and fill our houses with plunder. Cast lots with us. We will share all of the loot. So Solomon calls out and he says, you're going to go and harm others and they're going to tell you there's all these benefits. But son, you need to stop and consider what you are perpetrating toward another human being. And so he talks about that image of let us lie in wait for innocent blood. Friends, it is so easy for us to be enticed into actions toward another because we think it's going to benefit us. And sometimes we don't stop and weigh the consequences, weigh the harm that might be done. Maybe we're pursuing something that we think is perfectly okay. We end up in a partnership or in a group and we pursue something that we perceive as okay because it's going to benefit us. Solomon urges us and urges the teaching of every child, urges this image of saying, you need to stop and consider the harm done, the harm that might be perpetrated, because that's down at the root of this. He goes on here. He says, my son, do not go along with them. Do not set foot on their paths. In other words, don't even start down that. Don't be enticed by this, because if you won't allow yourself to be enticed, then they have no power over you. He says, for their feet rush into evil. They are swift to shed blood. How useless to spread a net where every bird can see it. These men lie in wait for their own blood. They ambush only themselves. Such are the paths of all who will go after ill-gotten gain. It takes away the life of those who get it. In other words, Solomon's trying to impart to the youth and trying to impart to all of us that when we get looped in with individuals who just go after gain, who just go after whatever they want and pursue it at any cost to other individuals, it ultimately becomes a trap for themselves. Friends, I think of the image of people who seem to always get away with it. And maybe you've looked out and you look at folks who live a certain way and they seem to always get away with it and they appear to be happy. And I would encourage you to recognize that these are individuals who are living their lives in a prison cell and don't even know it because the door's been left open. And they're able to go and loot and plunder and abuse and pursue power and wealth and all of these different things that Solomon warns about. And they seem to be living life to the fullest because they're living it their way. But the poison that it brings into their life, the poison that it brings into their relationship, and the poison it brings into their soul is a prison in and of itself. And one day that gate will snap shut. And they'll be absolutely bewildered and baffled at how they could be imprisoned in this way. Friends, I think when we stop and we consider in our own lives, not just the life of the young, but in our own lives, the dangers that are out there when people entice us to evil actions. Maybe it's not this image of lying in wait to shed blood in terms of a physical sense, but maybe it's us gathering in a group and talking negatively about another, cutting them down behind their back. Maybe it's us pursuing our gain at the cost of another in a different way that seems a little cleaner than actually attacking someone. Friends, there's so many different ways that we can be drawn into a worldly idea of living, and we can lose sight of the holiness to which God has called us. Let us live in the instruction and the wisdom of the elders who have walked before us, just like we desire our children to walk in the wisdom and the instruction of their parents. Well, friends, this concludes our section of Proverbs today. We're going to continue on tomorrow. We'll pick up at verse 15. And I look forward to being with you as we continue to delve into the scriptures and allow them to shape our lives. Friends, know that God loves you, and so do I.